Welcome to another episode of PKUnshackled. I am your host, Maqhawe Khathide, and today we have a magical show. The reason I say magical is because there's very few people that grab your attention that become a part of the national dialogue that represent Africanism more than my guest. And I can guarantee you it's going to be fireworks. Today, so I have a gentleman here. Now, I look at this gentleman, I feel inspired. A lot of people call him many names. They call him Sangoma. They call him, controversial. Yeah, well, I'm controversial. Everyone's controversial. I guess when you speak out or speak up against certain social ills, historical damage that the church and other institutions have done to people, they label you names. So please join me as I welcome my guest, Ubaba Joshua Maponga III. Sir.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on your platform, and greetings to you and your viewers around the world. And as we are building bridges for the recovering addicts of the Christian community.
I love it. So you are Joshua Maponga III. So there was a first, a second, and you're the third. Am I correct in saying your son will be the fourth?
It goes without say. It goes without say. Traditionally speaking, within the royal houses, you will always want to name your predecessors to allow continuity, and my grandfather did that within our tribe. So many people have known me only from the pastoral side, but my cultural side and my personal family history was not very clear to everybody. So they just celebrated a bishop. But they always knew I was Maponga III. But whether it was for fun or it was in reality, they got shocked all of a sudden 2 years ago when I reminded them that, hey, I'm not just Joshua Maponga, the pastor, The three you've been seeing all along means this. And to many people who had become so casual, it was like a cold wind on their faces, all of a sudden to begin to redefine you and readdress you in ways that they want to address you. And hence, when I throw away the title of bishop, people felt like, hey, why are you doing that? Many people have worked hard to get these titles, and you wake up one morning and you throw away such a big title. But I said, I have a bigger title than the bishop title. It's something that you gave me because I was doing what I was doing. But now that I'm growing into something else, I feel like that title becomes a bit more limiting to the vision and dream of what my life is made out of. And for that reason, I felt maybe for the sake of the younger viewers, I would put that title on ice and move over into what I need to accomplish.
I'm anticipating fireworks on this platform today. So let's take a quick break because we have bills to pay. And after the break, we get onto the serious stuff, the serious stuff that we're here for. See you in the break. Okay, welcome back to PKUnshackled. I'm spending my morning with Ubaba Joshua Maponga III. Now, please tell us, there's a lot of misconceptions about you. People just don't know who you are. Every day there is a new dialogue that you start. And, if I miss, 3 days without looking at your Facebook posts, I feel as if I don't know you anymore. please tell me and the viewers and the listeners out there, who is Joshua Maponga III?
Maponga Joshua is a being. Is a participle of a present continuous lifestyle. I cannot say I am Joshua Maponga as a present perfect tense of a completed work. I would rather say I am being Maponga Joshua, meaning to say I am progressively growing every day. The day I die, then you can put a full stop and you can look back and say, this is what he was all about. But I think our environment has become so intoxicated with titles. I'm a nurse, you know, I'm a policeman, I'm an accountant, I'm a pastor, as if you literally agreeing to drop yourself in that box and you cannot be anything else outside of what you are saying. As you see on many of my pages, many people say, stay on your lane. Don't say anything about medicine. Don't comment about politics. It's not your turf. You are a pastor, so you just stay there. Because our educational institution is almost stereotyped us into whatever you studied for, that's all you know, and there's nothing more outside of that. So the perception of colonial education says you should be this or that. I believe you can be this and that. So every morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and I look into an empty ceiling and I download a new idea and I talk about it for the day. Tomorrow morning, I wake up, I look up again, I get a new idea, I download it again. So these are the issues. These are the conversations in the corridors of my own mind, the issues that I'm grappling with. The only problem is that as I'm thinking, I am sharing those things with you, which I know offends many people. With what you are thinking, we don't want to know. We just want to know what you were taught and what you've come to accept as truth, which I find a bit offensive to an open-minded society where thinking must be progressive.
But do you think that current society allows the individual to think for themselves, or it's all about social conditioning? Because, you know, most of the stuff that you say on your social platforms, I understand, but the majority of people don't comprehend what you're saying, don't understand what you're saying. You know, I mean, automatically, before they even understand the notion of polygamy, when you speak of polygamy, they already say, oh, no, hey, don't. You know, the law says this, the Bible says this, but they don't understand what you're saying. Would you say that you're controversial? Let me ask you that. Are you controversial?
The word I would use rather is there are 3 types of people you need to start getting yourself around. Person number 1 are those who think inside the box, who basically are conformed and confined to the parameters of the box itself. Group number 2 are those who think outside of the box, but they still use the box as the reference of their thinking. Group number 3, which is my group, ban the damn box and think. I don't need to reference it to anything, just ban the thing. Now there's no box, let's think. So controversial for me would mean that I'm like fighting against an ideology. I'm not fighting against any ideology. I'm reasoning and questioning the ideologies based on my experience. So if that is controversy, then life is conflict, because that is the law of motion. For every movement in any direction, there's an equal opposite force. So the fact that I'm moving means that I'm controversial, but I call that movement.
Nice. No, I hear you. So for those who don't know out there, Joshua Maponga III is also a pastor's kid. Now, if we start talking about your journey, okay, our journeys as pastor's kid, you know, we don't have enough time. This show does not have enough time.
It may never end. The show may never end.
But you know, as a pastor's kid, right? Your upbringing, how did it channel you to be the being that you are now?
Speaking about the good things first, the publicity, the limelight, the recitation of Bible verses, the attending of pathfinders, marching camps, the leadership roles that you are given at an early age, with the responsibilities that come with it, and the privilege of studying in church schools, and exposure to various ministers internationally and otherwise. I mean, the growth pattern itself in terms of my background becomes almost an A-class student, which of course the earlier parts were a bit hectic due to the war that Zimbabwe went through, and my path was like messed up from around 72, 74 to around 80, 81 when the war stopped in Zimbabwe. So I had quite a bumpy early primary school life. But by the time I was in high school, I managed to get myself to a church school, Church Mission Solusi, which was an Andrews University satellite campus, and with top class lecturers around the world, both for literal critique and theology and arts and historical space. And basically I lived in America while I was in Africa, and I graduated ultimately at Andrews University. Our degrees were literally given from Michigan and stuff like that. So, and lecturers were switching over. So I should say I was privileged enough to walk into an open university where debates were robust and cultural interactions were international. The campus had students from Egypt, from Congo, from Tanzania, from Rwanda, from Namibia. The whole African met at Solusi. And for you as a young boy at the age of 11, to find yourself literally in an international community of that nature, from primary school right through into my high school, into my college and my university years, it placed me at a global pothole where I had an opportunity of mixing in this pot with the globe itself. And I think at a great extent, it shaped my worldview. I started learning Tswana and Sotho, Nyanja and Amharic. And even at one time, I had a girlfriend from Ethiopia. So, and then you would find that your appetite for a global conversation becomes activated at an early age. And I should say, on a positive side, that could have been a great advantage of being pushed into the mainstream of the global conversation early. But from a more local side, in terms of the church story, the church is quite abusive. We know that. And very, very reckless. You're not allowed to grow as a pastor's child. You are literally forced into adulthood. I remember those big, my father's ties being put on me at an early age, long jackets that were rolled over because you had to look this missionary look and then you're being put on a table to preach and send verses. People we go to steal mangoes and they say, I went to steal mangoes, but I was not alone. I was with other guys. They're not allowed to grow and often would sleep on the floors when visitors come home. They eat our milk and all those. So, to say the least, the church is insensitive. When members are stuck in town, they always at the pastor's house. The pastor's house became a station, and my father would be taking his money, giving people who had no transport and what. The rest of it, yeah, I went through all that. So there's very little you can tell me about being a pastor's kid that I didn't go through it. You are the last one on the list, but you're supposed to be the first one in terms of service.
Now, when funny story, when we were growing up, and this is what annoys me. When we were growing up, I remember that we lived in a caravan for 7 years. So from 1984 to 1991. I mean, this thing was rotten, as in like it had holes. So we had to put amaplank, lapo, and blankets on top, and then just to make sure the rats don't come in, but they did come in, you understand? Now, that was on the personal side. On the pulpit side, my dad was a superstar. You understand? People spoke highly of this guy, like, yeah, he's highly used by God. Luckily for him, he was not in this miracle movement, but he was preaching, salvation, and people got saved. He used to fill stadiums, and that didn't compute in my head. Would you get a musician who fills up a stadium, but they're able to feed their families and they live in houses? Yet my father serves this God, and they fill up stadiums for the whole week. They fill up stadium and Yanigelo every week, every day, by the way. So that to me didn't compute.
Who was taking the money from the stadium? Who was taking the money?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe,
that is the real question. That's the real question, because your father was working and someone was sitting at the back collecting the offering. So he was being used, basically. The church uses people. That's a fact.
Yeah. And you know what? At this day and age now, he would admit that as well. That some of the things that were done in the past, they're not necessarily of God. They're not necessarily conducive to the nucleus of the family. You understand? But anyway, so after the break, right, I'm going to ask you about African spirituality and Christian colonialism. That will be an interesting, because I need to pick your brain on the two subjects. So yeah, after the break, we'll continue our chat with Babu Joshua Maponga III. So see you in a tick. Welcome back. We've paid our bills and we continue our chat. No Baba Joshua Maponga III. Now, okay, let me ask you a question. Am I still allowed to call you Mfundisi, or I can't say that anymore?
Look, I am that. I have not lost a bit of that. It is just in spaces where I operate. When you say it and you know exactly what you are saying, and right now we're having a conversation within the pastoral space, I would allow you to do that. But when I move to some of my spaces where some of the content begins to push the boundaries of that, I would say let's put it aside. It's like a soccer star. When he gets home and he's talking to his children, they don't call him a soccer star. They call him dad. So, and you cannot force a soccer player to be called a soccer player in his own house. So for me, I'm not confused about those roles. I can put one role at the door and move over. As a father cannot be a husband to his children, but you become a father to his children. And my daughter the other day says to me, "Hey, Dad, you're my friend." I said, "Point of correction. I'm not your friend. You have friends. I am your father. You cannot bring your friendship issues to me. I cannot deal with you as a friend. I can deal with you as a child."
Okay. So as I'm allowed to call you police. So now there's a seismic shift in the national dialogue, and I know Abafundisi, they're avoiding this. They're saying Satan, but there's an awakening. The awakening of the African child, the awakening of the African diaspora, the awakening of the African, love for everything African. So a lot of young people are embracing African spirituality. Now, there seems to be a debate going on. What is this African spirituality? Man kuluma African spirituality nkuluma ngobungoma or nkuluma about a higher you know, form of worship, of religion, of spiritual engagement. What is your understanding, or what is your definition of the African spirituality?
On an onset, religion is schizophrenic. It teaches you to dress up for church. Now become a worshiper. And for those minutes, you walk onto the stage, locked up into that. But it's not a life that you can take away from stage. When you get home, you put away your worshiper's thing and you become a human being, which I find terribly, terribly wrong. Whereas African lifestyle, to avoid the word spirituality for now until I define it, African lifestyle, when I drink water, I must put a little bit on the ground first, then drink. When I am plowing my seeds, I throw some into the furrow, some to the road for the beds. Before I pluck a herb from the bush, I take my hair and put it in the ground and take the other plant and plant it, then harvest the herb that I want to harvest. When the rain comes, I go outside, I do a ritual. Before I get married, I do a ritual. After I finish peeing, I spit. So it's not schizophrenic. It's a continuous before you kill a cow, you tell it we are killing him for food. This is not a ritual. When anything is happening, when someone dies. So you look at the entire expression of the African life. It is not divided between now we are worshiping, now we are normal, now we are closer to God. It looks like the interwovenness of spirituality and divinity is actually intertwined with life itself, so that celebrations and rituals can only be extended forms of that expression. But on a day-to-day basis, even our greetings, Sawubona, Dumelang, Dumelara, you hear in those words a plural expression of, in as much as I'm looking at you as an individual, but I recognize the plurality in you. You're not alone. I recognize your forefathers, your grandfathers, to an extent how Ubaba, Sawubona Baba, it's the plural in him that plurals us to become what we are. So African spirituality, as it were, if I could define it, becomes a constant awareness, which the modern words they use, consciousness of the abundant availability and presence of the divine within the person that you are talking to and the activities that you're participating on. When you're going to Johannesburg to look for work, Ugogo comes to you, takes a bit of snuff and sprinkles it on you. So it's not divine. When you buy a new car, you take it to Gogo, they go and pour some liquor on it. So for me, that becomes very critical. Christianity seems to be locked up in jackets and in ties, that you can only do this here. You can't do this there. So people become Christians on a Sabbath and on a Sunday. And on Monday, when they take off their jackets, they become normal. They become human beings. And for that reason, you find that what you call religion is institutionalized, whereas African spirituality is lifestyle. For a start, I can start there.
Fantastic. Yeah, I hope people are watching this, because one of the things that hit me in my journey, not only as a PK but as a father and a social commentator, is that I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I don't have the foggiest clue of what I'm doing. All my life, I was raised as a Christian, right? And when you grow up, you start asking questions. I'm an intelligent being. So you start asking questions. Why do we do this? or why does this happen? But this is not African, whatnot, you know. And I was told, shut up. Shut up. It's like you're backsliding, you understand? Because you are asking questions that are uncomfortable, you understand? Like one of the questions I keep asking is, you know, is the narrative in the church was that Ukoko Ami or Shona is demonic. I'm like, where does that come from? Where does that come from? You understand? How do we even speak of our identity if we can't acknowledge people that have gone on this journey of life? You know, we can't acknowledge them because, and another thing, my mfundiswa, the heaven factor, this heaven. Oh, Koshiyama. You know, Christianity has taught people that the end game is heaven. Like, you know, forget who you are, forget that you're Zulu.
I want you to park the heaven one, because I want to deal with that separately. I want to deal with the gogo part first.
Yeah.
Whereas religion is a problem with your grandmother, the African does not have a problem with your grandmother. They will tell you exactly who she is and what is her role in your life, in your mother, in your father lying in her womb, and how that has become part of you, and etc. And if your grandmother is a demon, then what are you? If your grandparents are demons, then it only means that we are also demons waiting to become demons. But I want to define African spirituality, my own definition. It is a constant interaction between the Trinity. And I'm using Trinity in the context that some of your viewers will understand. I know when they talk Trinity, they talk of a masculine Trinity. The Father is a man, Jesus is a man, the Holy Spirit is a man. So three men create people, which I find totally not biological and not sensible at all. I would have been happy if people would understand the universe in its masculinity and femininity, that a man and woman makes a child, and the whole nature is male and female, from creation to animals to plants to fish to butterflies. They don't have a problem with sex, as it were, between male and female. But Christianity has a problem of putting a woman within the context of God. They want to keep it purely as masculine. But to cut the long story short, then it is the concept of the mother, the father, and the child, making that trinity. As such, you find that African spirituality helps the individual. How do you interact with water? How do you interact with the soil? And how do you interact with the air? That's the trinity of life here where we are. The air, the water, and the soil. Now here's the mystery. Water, which is feminine, is the medium which is able to translate the spiritual to physical. I'll make it simpler. You went into your mother's womb as a spirit and as water, but your mother was able to convert the sperm in her waters and make bone and marrow, and here you are. So women become the water through which that which is divine and spiritual can actually pass through the medium of women and become physical. So African spirituality understands that the medium through which we all have come into this life, the gate through which we all have come into this life, from one realm of life to another realm, is the woman. Therefore, water becomes important. Hence, in all African spirituality, including Christianity, when they baptize you, by the way, they are also taking a bit of that, putting you back into the womb so that you come up as a new creation, according to the book of Romans chapter 8. You know, the old things have passed away in Romans chapter 6, and the old things have passed away, the new things have come. I'm a new creature now. In John chapter 3, how do you get born again? Do I go back in my mother's womb? And etc. You can hear from the debate that the man is asking, should I now go back into the same waters and come back again. No, you don't have to go back in the womb, go to the water. And from the water, you can come back as a new creation. So African spirituality understands the air, representing the rains, representing the spirit, representing the space from which we have come from. Jeremiah chapter 4, before you were born, I knew you. I identified you. I formed you. And then I created you. And I placed you in your mother's womb. Now, what were you? Because we understand where we are coming from. We understand where we are. And we understand where we are going. So African spirituality actually defines that while you are alive, interact with the air, interact with the soil. Hence, when our children are born, we cut up their placentas and etc., and we dig them back to the ground. That's the birth certificate. That's the title deed. That is touching me back with the ground from where I came from. And when I die, we put a deposit when you are born. When you are dead, we pay you the final payment as you enter back into the ground from where you have come from. So how do you interact with the spirit? How do you interact with the soil? And how do you interact with the waters itself? That becomes a conversation that the African constantly has in his entire lifestyle of worship.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Now, you know, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot. Like I said, you know, I come from the Karalaba Sindaraba Karasondo generation and culture, and anything African is frowned upon. Anything African is you know, even the fact that I'm 41, I've got dreadlocks. You know, a lot of people still say, shut up, man, it's none of your business. You know, I'm an African. You know, I like the way I look. I like the way by the way, you are my inspiration in terms of your attire. You know, you sharp, great. I must get myself a designer.
We're breaking rules, you know.
Yeah, no, we break rules, you know. But you know what? Let's take a quick break, right? After the break, let's discuss this issue here, how Christianity was used to oppress Black people, because it was, you know, we can't run away from that, and it's still happening today. This colonial element, I call it New Age colonialism. So we'll chat about that, and you said you want to quickly chat about heaven. So I'd like to hear what you have to say about heaven. So yeah, after the break, we continue our chat. Nobaba Joshua Maponga. So welcome back to this exciting episode of PKUnshackled. I'm spending my time Nobaba with Joshua Maponga, and we're talking African spirituality versus Christian colonialism and other things involved. It's just a medley of exciting dialogue. So Babwam, one of the things that I personally started questioning when I was in my teens was, how did not only the apartheid government, but governments in general, you know, they've used the Bible, they've used Christianity for their colonial expansion, suppression of Africa and other, you know, cultures and countries. And, you know, here we are in 2021. It seems like all of that didn't happen. We are continuing praising, we are clapping, you know, we are loving this this rock alternative music that is supposedly gospel music. Anyway, yeah, I don't like it. You know, I'm an African. Play something that associates with me. Anyway, so what do you have to say about that? You know, the fact that, you know, Evangeli, in as much as they talk about the liberation of salvation through Christ, but the Bible was used to oppress people. And and or to justify the oppression of people, not only a people, but their culture as well, and traditions?
That subject is quite huge. I wish we could actually have a full episode where we can unpack the colonial.
We can.
Yes,
We
I
can
think
easily.
let's schedule that. But for now, I'll just give you a high level. I'll make them subjects. So in your episode here, just take notes. Then in the future, we can come back and pick them up as questions. Then we can expand. Firstly, we need to look at the culture of the Bible vis-a-vis the culture of the African. Are those cultures the same? Or the culture of the Bible has actually become the colonial culture? Simple question, for example, how do Christians marry? Second question, how do Africans marry? Which one is more acceptable? Point of how do Africans do their rituals? How does Christianity do its rituals? Which one of them is blessed? You know, even when the Bible talks about Abraham cutting sacrifices, half for him, half for God, when our African families and weddings cut the animal into half for your family, half for the bride's family, do we find that as a problem when actually it has a biblical basis for that practice? Secondly, you want to look at the formulation of the biblical text. Question number 2, who formulated the Bible? Where does it come from? Where does the Torah come from? Then you want to look at Abyssinia. You want to look at Ethiopia. You want to look at Kemet and find out what is the journey of the Bible until it goes to Europe. It goes to Anglican through King George, the King James Version. It goes into Gutenberg through Martin Luther. It goes into America, New International Version, comes back as Gassolalia and charismatic movements. Which kind of Christianity is really acceptable? Is it the Jewish culture? Is it the Hebrew culture? Is it the African culture? Is it the Roman culture? Is it the English culture? Is it the European culture? Is it the American culture or the African indigenous church culture? And all these are in a boiling pot of what you might want to call Christianity, to a result of 37, if not 38,000 churches that we have on the face of the earth right now. One Bible, one devil, and one Jesus, yet we all don't agree on the same subject. That will be for another day. Thirdly, you want to look at the concept again of the colonization and the political flavor of the Bible itself. How was the Bible text used politically for the colonization of Africa? And then within that subject, you can look at the iconography of Jesus being transformed from a black man from Africa, and he comes back as a white man with blue eyes and with European hairstyles. And when an African accepts that white Jesus, is he not also sympathizing with the white man who looks like the savior that now comes as Jesus? We want to separate the purity of the text vis-a-vis the colonialization of the text itself, to an extent that we want to agree also that even Jesus is colonized. Even God is colonized. God is a white man. And if God is a white man, Adam is a white man. And if Adam is a white man, then Seth is a white man. Then Enoch is a white man. Methuselah is a white man. Noah is a white man. So is Abraham. So is Jesse. So is David. So is Moses. So is Joseph. And so is Jesus. But if God created man out of the dust of the ground and he is black, then God himself, let's make man in our image. And if God is black, Adam is black. And then Enoch is black. So is Noah. So is Abraham. So is Joseph. So is David. So is Solomon. And so is Joseph. And so is Jesus. Many Christians want to bury their heads in the sand like an ostrich. It does not matter what complexion Jesus is. He's the savior of the whole world. If he does not have complexion, does not have culture, then he was never born. He was never here. And later on, subject number 4, you want to argue on the concept that if Jesus, the name Jesus, the letter J, was put on the alphabet 500 years ago, according to English, according to Latin, etymologically speaking, Jesus never existed because he was born 1,500 years earlier. So if the letter J appears 500 years ago, the question is, what was his name when he was born? And what is the relevance of translating the name of Jesus and giving him a Roman name? Even naming angels, Michael, Gabriel, and etc. If the angels are Michael and Gabriel, then it means that in heaven they speak English.
Speaking of heaven, what's up with this heaven? You know, because and I'm sure you've preached this gospel as well, that, it doesn't matter, your life, it's relevant. You don't have to love your wife 100%. You don't have to love your kids 100%. You don't have to do anything 100% except pray to God 100% and follow Jesus 100%. Those are the only things that matter, because at the end of the day, your reward is you are going to heaven, streets of gold.
That is actually what I call an escape theology, where God creates us on earth. Now you must transport us to heaven. Now, if God wanted us in heaven, why did he place us on earth? Many people have postponed their lives on earth, looking forward to Jesus' second coming. Yet you forget, as early as Genesis, be fruitful and multiply, have dominion, be the heads and not the tails. My prayer that you might prosper. I have come that you might have life and have life more abundantly. And all these verses, people overlook them because they want to run to heaven and walk the streets of gold. Now, how can you walk the streets of gold when you never touched gold on earth? How can you go and want to live in a palace when you're living in a cuckoo on earth? And the same Bible says you were faithful in small things. Come inside, I'll make you faithful over much. How are you made faithful over much when you are faithful over nothing? The fact that God gave Israel land as their inheritance. The question is, what has God given the African as their inheritance? And the whole concept of heaven, if it makes the African postpone his responsibility on earth to be able to till the land and benefit from them, that religion has become very corrosive to African progress, including the music. Take the world, but give me Jesus. I'm satisfied with a small little cottage here below, but I have a mansion beyond the river. Now, what kind of madness will actually make you run away from your own inheritance, and you are looking forward to the inheritance that Jesus will give you in heaven? Heaven must not be a reward for lazy people on earth. Heaven must be a reward for a faithful life on earth and a productive life on earth.
But do you believe in heaven?
As a geographical location, as a cosmological presence, as a place outside of space, I believe there should be stars and heavens, things that I don't understand. But the biblical concept of moving people to heaven where they'll have small little wings and they're going to be flying around and etc. I think that becomes a fairy tale of madness. If it happens and I find myself there, hallelujah. But if I live my life on earth and it's productive, I will be a happy man.
What if you don't go to heaven?
But I've lived.
Because I'll tell you why. I've spent my whole life, being scared of going to hell. My whole life. I was like, I don't want to go there. Every time I do something wrong, I repent. And I realized, nah, man, there must be purpose to my life. There must be, I should be able to honor my wife wholeheartedly. I should be able to raise my kids and apply myself to them wholeheartedly. You understand? If me being a good husband and a brilliant father takes me to hell.
The religion that is founded on fear, fearing of hell and fearing of being lost, people who fear hell will end up in hell because fear is not sustainable. According to the Bible, in the book of John, where there is true love, there's no fear. For true love chases away fear. And our fear of hell and our fear of God does not create good worshippers, because it becomes a bribery section where we must return our tithes and offerings because we're afraid we're going to go to hell. We do worship out of fear. And I would wonder if God created us to become cowards of life and use that fear as a passport to enter heaven. I'm totally disappointed if Christianity markets itself for heaven by creating fear in the hearts of its followers.
But that's what they do. That's what they do. Week in, week out, people are scared into believing. They're scared into righteousness. And another thing that worries me is this thinking or doctrine that righteousness is mutually exclusive to Christianity. You cannot be an African and be righteous. You cannot be a Hindu and be righteous.
Let me throw a curveball at you. Which relationship is better between you and your son? The one where he fears you or the one where he loves you? I mean, it's a stupid question. But where would you find a home being built to a child when the father arrives, he goes underneath the bed? Or when the father arrives, the boy runs to the car, greets the father, and helps him to carry the bed? And how come Christianity wants us to be under the beds instead of, I don't have to put on a jacket and a tie when I'm in my house with my children and my wife and my kids, because there's nothing to hide. But when I'm going to people that don't know me, then I need to look in a certain way. Then I can become acceptable to them. In that context, if Jesus and if God is a problem with an African, then he's foreign to the African. Because he should have known what a Zulu looks like. He should have known what a Sutu looks like. And if he cannot accept a Zulu as a Zulu, it means that for you to become Christian first, you must become European. You must become colonized. You must put on, you must think, you must dress, you must sing like the colonial master. Then the white Jesus will accept you. Because if you come as a Zulu man in your shield and in your beshu, that Jesus will run away and cannot deal with you because that is demonic. But if your culture is demonic to him, then he never created you. Maybe that's why I say the white God does not understand the African, and he's not a savior to the white people, to the black people, sorry, because he does not know them, neither did he create them, or does he understand them?
Oh, okay. Okay, let's go to a quick break and then we chat music and wrap up this amazing episode. See you in a bit. Okay, welcome back to PKUnshackled. Igamo Maqhawe Khathide, and I'm chilling with Joshua Maponga the III. I wish I could. My son, by the way, is Maqhawe Khathide the II. So his son will be the third. I don't know why I did it, but it just happened. It just happened. Anyway, so I know Uti, you love music, sir. Yeah, and I love music. I love music. But in terms of how we've been raised, you know, this notion that at churches we have to sing, you know, your hill songs and, you know, European rock music. And that is the definition of gospel music and what puts you in connection with God. I don't disagree with that. I mean, you play, what's that instrument you're playing now?
I'm playing mbira.
Mbira. I love that instrument. You understand? I love because it's distinctly African. Now, my question is, if I'm sitting under a tree and playing the mbira and go on this spiritual trance, is that not some form of worship?
The word mbira, is the aleph, the alpha, which you sing in your church. You are the alpha and omega, the R. We're reading the word backwards. M-B-I-R-A, mbira. That's the name of the instrument. R represents where it all began, the great aleph, the great R. Ra is the sun, the day, time that we have been given to celebrate R. So you have Ra. Then Ira in Shona means holy, means sacred, set apart, sanctified. So a day is sanctified time to celebrate R. Then Bira is an occasion, an event where we meet together as a community. And once a community meets together, their presence becomes a holy convocation. within a space of time where they should celebrate their life and the blessings that have come from R. Then mbira is an instrument that we play during bira. And when we play the instrument, the environment becomes era, time, if you remember very carefully from your other era, where we are celebrating Ra, the sun that has come from R. Then I become Gwenyambira, the one who is scratching the mbira during the bira, the event which is era, where we celebrate Ra, who has come from R. Therefore, our music is actually our connecting cables between the present and the past, because this instrument was made by our ancestors as they were connecting with God. When we begin to play it and connect the cadence of the pentatonic scale, we have the modal change in our spirits that gives us the frequency of which our divine spirituality is grounded upon. So our African instruments, including the drum, which is a combination of two weird things, the wooden stick that is dead and the cow that our forefathers were drinking milk from. Those two things put together in the hollowness of the tree, which speaks of our life, by the way. That life is when another skin of another life covers the hollowness of human existence. That becomes our understanding of incarnation. This becomes spiritual. I am physical. When I hit the drum, I am able to make contact with the history where we are coming from and produce the spiritual sound which touches you and alters your frequency. So we play the drums to connect ourselves with the history from where we come from and experience the past in the present as we are celebrating life itself and having perceptions of the future which we are holding on and moving on to.
So now, what do you say to you know, we have to listen to this rock music. How great is our God? We have to listen to that, and apparently that's the only spiritual. I mean, I make house music. I love house music. I've loved house music, and you know, I realized that for me, it's a spiritual journey. You know, it's a connection to a higher being. You know, and people think, no, it's up in time. I don't care. You know, but it, it worries me when we've chosen a foreign you know, type of music that has nothing to do with our culture, and the assumption is that it's the only thing that connects you to this higher being. You know, I always say to people, it's unfortunate that our people have been brainwashed to that level. You know, when you figure with your mbira and your djembe and your whatnot, you start beating drums, automatically into some mushrooms. You know, what happened to being African? Are we that? Let me ask you this question: are we that far out? Are we that hopeless?
On the same wavelength, that same rock music is used for satanic and Luciferian worship. The rock music in itself is devilish and demonic. If you can go back and really study that music. So in as much as some of it is now, the instrumentation has been taken out of the rock music to become Christian music. Why are you afraid as African to take what they also call demonic on your side and create your own spiritual music? Country music has become gospel music. Hitler killed people, the Jews, playing classic music. So can we say that music is only sacred to the European community? Maybe that's the level of colonization that even our worship, our music, our marriage, our food, and our style of expression has been colonized. It's a fact that we need to accept. I mean, you go to some of our mainstream churches, we are singing, we sing, and we are happy as young people. Immediately when the pastors walk in, okay, again, you know, and amaculo means what? Let's now sing the colonial hymn book. Then we are now starting worship. What you were doing here is useless. I mean, they even say after 1 hour of praise and worship, sesiyavula ke inkonzo, ukuvula inkonzo. How do you open a service? We've been here for an hour. Are you only saying now God is walking in when we are singing European music? That's colonialism at its highest level, where we are way into the deep. And unfortunately, our fellow Black elders and pastors are fully enforcing that culture to make sure that it is fully entrenched in the Black young people, to make sure they don't depart from the colonial teachings.
Okay, I officially think we've run out of time, but Maponga, we'd like to invite you again. I think that there's more to explore, and you know, I always say that we must tap into the resources that we have as a collective, so that we understand who we are. I mean, in your book, Find Your Truth, beautiful title, love it. You know, where can people find your book, by the way?
The book is on Amazon. If you're in South Africa, take a lot. Exclusive books, bargain books, CNA, all the bookshops nationally. You can just walk up to them. If they don't have stock, the book is fully registered. They can order a copy for you. We have managed to place it on every African hand. Please get a copy of that book. And when you read it, stay away from church for about 2 weeks and fight with yourself. The book is about 60% questions. And so it will need you to literally struggle with yourself and ask those unfamiliar, uncomfortable questions that you had as a young child. And I think young people are better worshippers than old people. Because when we were young, we used to ask questions because we honestly wanted to know. But as you get older and older and you're pushed down not to ask, we have also become like all of them. But this book will resurrect the young person in you and take you back to asking the question, why do we baptize? Why do we get baptized and Sangomas are also getting baptized? What is the difference?
Fantastic. So yeah, Maponga, thank you very much for your time. And me and you have a date for the second shoot of this, second shoot of PKUnshackled. At home, we hope that this discussion has, you know, enlightened you, has inspired you, but most importantly, you are on the path to find your own truth.
You can sing happy birthday for me at least. Let me put you on the spot.
Me sing. No, Baba.
I wanted you on tape. I wanted you on record singing. You know.
No. I'll make you. I'll make you a song. I'll make you a song. But singing is not my strength. Anyway, thank you for joining us at home. Adios.
Thank you.